Good afternoon, everybody. Again, welcome to the Burke County Board of Commissioners pre-agenda meeting for Monday, December 2nd, 2024 at 3 p.m. I'll call the meeting to order. Welcome, everybody. All commissioners are present, along with our newly appointed county attorney and Madam Clerk. And Mr. Manager, you look like a big red bow from here, but you're right there. And Madam Margaret, thank you all for being here. Again, remind you to silence your mobile devices and remind you to please activate your microphone so that we can hear you when you're speaking if you come to the lectern or if you're at the board. All right, gentlemen, you've had the agenda for approval. I'll ask you and remind you, spoke to each of you about backing up our December meeting for one day. That would be a consent item that we'll add.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
that needs to be an action item.
Decision item?
Action item.
Action item. Okay, number 9. Yes, okay, so we'll consider that in item number 9. You'll recall that, so that's a little bit of a change. Don't think there's any other changes to the agenda. So with that change, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. All those in favor signify by the uplifting of the hand. It's 5-0.
Mr. Chairman, does that include the note in the bottom of page 3?
Yes, ma'am, that with the notes as we discussed, to approve the agenda with addition of action item
Okay, thank
1,
you.
resolution amending the 2024 meeting schedule. Yes, ma'am, okay. All right, this brings us to item number 3 for presentations. This item comes from our sheriff. Sheriff Huntsman, would you tell us about our K-9 officer? Afternoon, Sheriff.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me now? Yes. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Welcome, new commissioners. Look forward to working with you. We are wanting to retire out Macho. He's about a 10-year-old or better German Shepherd. He's been a great dog for the sheriff's office. He's been a full-service dog, drugs, apprehension. He's the type of dog that you could put him on a apprehension and then immediately take him to a school and run him through the school and let the kids play with him. He's one of those, we really hate to see Macho leave, but it is time for him to retire. You know, those shepherds have issues with hips down the road, and we would just like to allow Macho to retire and award him to his handler, Lieutenant Tim Branch, who they have been together for about 8 years. And that, I think that's item number 1 on the consent, would be to allow us to surplus Macho.
All right, thank you, sir. Any questions on this item?
And we will have Macho here on the night of the meeting, so whoever wants to take a bite, you can volunteer.
Leave all your drugs at home that night. Don't bring any.
He has been a good dog. We hate to see him go. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Sheriff. Without objection, this item will remain on the agenda. Item number 2 in presentations comes from our County Manager, Government Finance Officers Association, Certificate of Achievement. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, I too would follow the sheriff, welcome our 2 new members. Super excited to serve with both of you. Burke County is one of the few counties in North Carolina that applies for a national recognition for excellence in financial reporting through what's referred to as the GFOA, which is the Governmental Finance Officers Association. So this certificate we've now received for a few years in a row. Again, I don't know the exact number in North Carolina, but I'll get that. It's a fairly small percentage of the market that actually applies and achieves this recognition. Largely, it's due to our financial statements, our audited financial statements, the level of detail that they provide. There's some additional statistical sections and that give large kind of economic data points and comparisons and benchmarking and show trend patterns. But overall, I think it's another example of going above and beyond what's minimally required and trying to provide as much information to our citizens and the users of our financial statements. And largely, I'd like to brag on Margaret and our entire finance team for the additional effort that they put into this level of presentation. This award was given to the June 30, 2023 financial statements. The 2024 statements are just being completed. The audit's being finalized. That will then go to the Local Government Commission, which is a component of the State Treasurer's Office. And then once they approve the financials, we'll submit to GFOA for their secondary, more intense level of review and so forth. But for this item, Mr. Chairman, is simply recognition of that 2023 receipt from GFOA, and we'll have the certificate here in 2 weeks for the board to take part in.
All right, thank you, Mr. Manager. Any questions on this item? Seeing here none, this item will remain on the presentation agenda. Thank you, Brian. We have no scheduled public hearings for this month, and this will bring us to item number 5 on the consent agenda. First item is on the sheriff's docket, resolution authorizing sale of machos. We've already talked about that. Any questions about macho? Hearing none, this item will remain on the consent agenda. So we're going to have a presentation also, Madam Clerk, at our regular meeting.
Yes, Macho's gonna come.
Okay, so okay, I got it. So
You know, we like dogs.
we're gonna see Macho, and then we're gonna resolute him in the consent agenda. Okay, we're good to go. Thank you, ma'am. Item number 2, Board of Commissioners adoption of rules of procedure. Gentlemen, you've seen the rules of procedure for 2025. There were no changes or addition to the rules. Any questions or any discussion on this item? All right. Seeing here none, this item will remain on the consent agenda. Item number 3 comes from the clerk, resolution establishing the Board of Commissioner 2025 meeting schedule. And Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This is a request to adopt a resolution establishing your meeting schedule for calendar year 2025. It's very similar to how we do it every year. It sets our pre-agenda for the first Tuesday of the month, the regular meeting at the third Tuesday of the month. It includes this year a budget retreat at the School of Math and Science Barn in March. It identifies the association's annual conference. This year will be in Pitt County, August 21 through 23. You will note, or if you will note, in July and August, we don't have a pre-agenda. A lot of staff are traveling or taking continuing ed, so we don't have pre-agenda in those months. And then I believe that the chairman has an event that he needs to attend in the December regular meeting, and you want to move that to Monday, is that correct, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct. And I would like to propose that that be moved also for next year. And gentlemen, as I was polling each of you about the meetings, I believe it was Commissioner Burns, maybe somebody else, indicated that Monday nights, that the third Monday would actually be a better night for them if we would consider making that move. How would that fit everyone else's schedule if rather than meeting the third Tuesday, we met the third Monday? Would that be of any problem for anybody? That seem okay?
Would we accommodate, like for federal holidays and things like that, then now that they make a long weekend and all that, would that interfere with anything on that?
I'd have to look at the calendar. Madam Clerk, do you have any?
There are a couple of federal holidays that we'll have to take in consideration and meet on Tuesday or some other day,
On the
or another week, or,
third Monday? What?
like Martin Luther King Jr., sometimes Easter, veteran, that's 11th. Anyway, there's a few that we'll have to take into consideration. Labor Day,
Labor Day wouldn't be on a third Monday.
I don't know.
Third Monday work for everybody, okay? Otherwise, I mean, we'll deal with the holiday, of course, but, and probably just move that to the Tuesday, I would imagine. to give us plenty of time. Okay, so Madam Clerk, will you make that adjustment to that for our regular meeting? And
I
so
sure will.
We'll have that. Any other questions about the proposed meeting schedules? So we'll be at the barn at the North Carolina School of Science and Math for our workshop. All right. With those changes, Madam Clerk, we'll put that on consent.
Thank you.
Thank you. This brings us to item number 4. Commission appointments. Gentlemen, you've had the commission appointments. I have one change. The Child Protection Child Fatality Prevention Team had Mr. Stroud there, going to change that to Mr. Barrier. Any other things we need to discuss there? Everybody good with their assignments? All right. Seeing here none, this item will remain with that change on the consent agenda. You got that, Madam Clerk? All right, item number 5, clerk reappointments to Blue Ridge Community Action. This comes from Kay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This is a request to make some reappointments and appointment to Blue Ridge Community Action. They're a nonprofit organization here in Burke County that addresses self-sufficiencies and low-income residents. And Mr. Cloy has decided to not seek reappointment, and we have an application from Ricky Klein to complete a 2-year term ending December 15th, 2026, and to reappoint Barbara Myers and James Smith, also to 2-year terms ending December 15th, 2026.
All right, thank you. Any question on this item? All right, seeing here none, without objection, this item will remain on the agenda. Item number 6, also from the clerk, resolution amending plat review officers. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a request to appoint Benjamin Ely as a plat review officer for the city of Morganton, to appoint Ashley Young as a plat review officer for the town of Valdez and the Burke County portions of the town of Roadhess. And it also officially removes Larry Johnson from the town of Valdez as a plat review officer.
Right, thank you. Any question on this item? Seeing here none, this item will remain on the consent agenda. Item number 7, clerk appointment to JCPC, seat number 15. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a request to replace Brandy Talbert on seat number 15. She was in the Chief District Court Judge Designee seat on the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. Obviously, based on their name, they work with juveniles in the court system. And the 2-year term, or the remainder of the 2-year term, ends June 30th, 2026.
All right. Any question on this item? Being here none, this item will remain on the consent agenda. Item number 8, also from the clerk, reappointments to the Burke County Board of Equalization and Review. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a request to reappoint James Gordon to seat number 2 on the Board of E&R for a 3-year term ending December 31st, 2027, and also to reappoint Doris Smith for the same term for seat number 4.
Any questions on this item? Being here none, this item will remain on the consent agenda. Item number 9, also from the clerk, realignment of terms for the Social Services Advisory Board. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a request to modify the terms for the Social Services Advisory Board. Some of them ended in June, July, and September, and we'd like to align those to all in the same month, on the same day for efficiency. So we're asking to change Nancy Wood's term, which would have ended June 30th to September 30th. From Mr. Day's term, which ended or will end July 1st to September 30th. Mo Schwinn's from September 21st to 9/30, and Keith Bowman from July 1st to September 30th. There was no change to the years. That's a bit of housekeeping.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. Any questions on this item? All right, seeing here none, this item will remain on the consent agenda. Item number 10, also from the clerk, appointment to the Morganton Planning Board of ETJ.
Mr. Chairman, I'm pleased to report that we seem to be on a roll with these ETJ appointments, and we received an application from Louis Vinay, formerly the city attorney for the city of Morganton, and he does live in the ETJ. And this is to complete the remainder of a term ending June 3rd, 2027.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Any question on this item? All right, seeing here none, this item will remain on the consent agenda. Item number 11, Clerk, EMS Peer Review Committee appointments. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a request to remove Nicole Hudson's name from the roster and thank her for her service, and to reappoint Kaylee Pittman to the EMS Peer Review Committee as the nurse position for a 2-year term ending November 15th, 2026. To appoint Zach Williams, seat 3, EMS personnel, for the remainder of a term ending November 15th, 2025. To appoint Joy Burleson to seat number 7, First Responder East, to complete the remainder of a term ending November 15th, 2025. And to reappoint Alan Hudson, seat number 8, First Responder South, and April Traxler, seat number 4, Medical Facility, to complete the remainder of terms ending November 15th, 2026. We do need to get Ms. Traxler's application. I have not received that yet, and if I overlooked the reappointment of Robert Bishop to represent emergency management, that would be for seat 5.
All right. Any questions on this item? Seeing here none, this item will remain on the consent agenda. Item number 12, Child Fatality Prevention Team restructuring. Madam Clerk.
Okay, all right. In 2023, as part of the Appropriations Act, Session Law 2023-124, there was a bit of legislation that requires Board of County Commissioners to determine if the local child fatality prevention team proceeds as a single team or as a multi-county team. And this is just to confirm that they would like to stay as a single team.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I was at that meeting and heard discussion on this item. Our folks felt that we were better served to have our own team and not be part of other areas. So any questions on this item? All right, seeing here none, this item will remain on the consent agenda.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Item number 13 comes from Human Resources, Policy Modernization Presentation. This will be presented by Mark Miller, our Human Resources Director. Good afternoon, Mark.
Hey, good afternoon, gentlemen. Thanks for the time to do this. So we are requesting for you to review and approve a policy change. You guys may be aware, we have been working on policy modernization project for quite some time. There was an approval of a policy back in April, earlier in the year. So we're going under and looking at our policies kind of one by one and making updates to those, putting them into a modern format, and just making sure that our policies fit the needs of the organization as we go through. So we are going to be asking for you to review the Personnel Administration System policy. This is Article 1 in our current policy manual currently. And so we would ask for you at this time to review that policy and approve that. And as we continue to go forward, I got a couple slides in there if you want to look at those at your convenience of how the policy process is being been underway. But we're going to have additional policies that we're going to ask you to review and approve going forward in the following months as well. So it's going to be an ongoing process. There's about 116 policies in our current policy manual that we're going through and looking at it and putting it in the new format and making changes as we go through. So that would be the request is for you to, again, to review the personnel administration system policy and approve that at this time. Thank you.
Placeholder, Mr. Bridgers. Afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Welcome to our newest members. For the month of November, our tax release and refund report was $105,850.16 with a rebuild amount of $94,394.98. Meaning a
Gentlemen,
net-
excuse me, John. Gentlemen, you have those in front of you in printed form. They were not ready when the package was presented, so you can find those in front of you. I'm sorry, John, go ahead.
which means a net release of $11,455.34 with a refund amount of $9,493.57. Any questions?
John, just for the benefit of our new members, kind of give us a brief explanation of what that means.
Well, the way the computer system is, it seems like that if you've got a bill, let's say a bill of $100, and you're going to release $10 of it, you would just release $10, but that's not the way the system is. You have to release the entire bill of $100 and rebill $90 with a net release of $10.
Explain what creates that release, though, John.
Well, a release could be from where they may be in the wrong tax district, like say for maybe it was, whether it's an automobile or a mobile home or whatever it may be, personal property being taxed here in the city of Morganton, which would have a different tax rate than something out in the county where where there would be a fire tax as well. So it's everything's got the same county tax, but out in the county it's going to have a fire tax, whereas in the city will not have a fire tax. That would be through their city taxes. So it could be that it's we have a value difference, or it could be where somebody's appealed the value and we've changed it, or through the Property Tax Commission, they've appealed through the local Board of Equalization and Review, been through the informal appeal through the tax office, formal appeal to the Equalization and Review, and then the formal appeal to the State Property Tax Commission. If any one of those stages could change the value, which could result in a release or a refund. It could be that we charge somebody a late listing penalty because it was deemed to be turned in late, but because of the postmark, it was actually on time. We could receive something, the listing period ends on January 31st, but it could have been postmarked on January 31st and not arrive until, say, February 15th or even May 15th, the way the post office is. But it would still be based on when was postmarked by the Federal Postal Service. And so it could be just mistakenly charged late when it really was not. Does that, you follow that? Any other questions?
Mr. Bridgers, I do just have a quick question. But I've always wondered this, and since I'm here, I'm sure a lot of folks may ask the question, or I found that many don't even know. When you turn in a tag, let's say you sell a vehicle and you turn the tag in, a lot of folks don't know that if you take the receipt for that tag, let's say it has 10 months left, you can take it to the property tax office and get a refund on that.
Yes.
So my feeling is, from talking to folks, that very few people or our citizens know about that. What happens to that money if they never claim it? Does that just go into our general fund, or?
It does, because we don't know that, if they don't bring us the receipt to say the tag was turned in, we don't know that. And so, you know, it would be just like your automobile that you didn't turn the tag in, it goes into the general fund.
Sure. And I'm just curious, do you have any idea, or could you find out approximately what that would be per year for us when folks don't
And there would
request
be
that?
no way to know.
No way to know.
There-
Okay.
There's no way to know how many people have turned in a tag and not let us know. When somebody does turn in a tag, though, typically the folks at the tag office gives them the receipt and says, take this up to the tax office. So they should know. But whether,
I may add that, and John, so in 2017, the state took over motor vehicle billing and collection. So now when you get your tag and turn it in, they reconcile, so there's something called NCVTS is the state system. And so essentially the state of North Carolina collects our motor vehicle revenue and sends us a check. So we don't even have the detailed ledger of what tag belongs to what automobile, belongs to what taxpayer. We don't do the motor vehicle billing component. So I say all that to say, even though there's probably still some gaps in reconciling, I imagine it's closer than it used to be, to your point. So, you know, we don't possess those granular details. We just largely get a check from the state that says, here's your motor vehicle revenue.
Yeah, I understand. I just felt like maybe we could probably communicate to our citizens a little
100%.
better to let them know that money's really theirs.
It is, yes, sir.
To get back. And being in the car business years ago, on a day-to-day basis, dealing with tags and all, I realized that was happening a lot. So I was just
Well,
always
yeah.
curious if we as a county couldn't communicate that in some way or fashion so folks could put some of
100%
that
think
money
we
back
can
in their
communicate.
pocket.
Yes, sir. I think we
Thank
can do
you.
that. Yes, sir.
That's all.
if somebody turns their tag in but does not sell the vehicle, then there is no refund because that's still taxable.
Any other questions on this item? All right, thank you, John, for that explanation. Moving on to the tax collection report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the fiscal year from July 1st through November 30th, the amount collected for property tax was $34,464,292.08. That is 70.20% of the budgeted amount, with a balance to collect of $16,328,886.92. Motor vehicle tax, we have collected year-to-date $2,263,249.54. That is 44.59% of the budget amount, with a balance to collect of $2,812,994.46. For current year taxes, we have collected $40,727,541.62. That is 68.03% of the budget amount, with a balance to collect of $19,141,881.38. For delinquent taxes, we have collected year-to-date $328,001.64. That is 46.86% of the budget amount, with a balance to collect of $371,998.36. For penalty and interest, year-to-date, we have collected $129,802.41. That is 39.45% of the budget amount, with a balance to collect of $199,197.59. For the motor entire levy, which does not include motor vehicles, we have collected year-to-date $57,080,587.94. That's the levy. Collected year-to-date is $38,464,292.08, being 67.39% of the budget amount, with a balance to collect of $18,616,295.86. Any questions?
Thank you, John. Any questions for John on this item? All right. Seeing here none, this item will remain on the consent agenda. This brings us to item 6, items for decision, several items. All these are coming from the clerk. First item, reappointments to the Public Health Advisory Board. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This item has changed a lot since it was first drafted, but this is a request to appoint a pharmacist. In this case, it's a reappointment of Jesse Stout for seat number 5, which is an optometrist or private citizen on the Public Health Advisory Board. We have now received an application from Isaac Crouch. For seat number 7, which represents a registered nurse, we had an application on file from Josette Taylor. And then for seat 9, which is at large, we have several applications on file for this seat. And when we have more than one application per seat, that's what designates it as an item for decisions.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. So if I followed all that, we'll move the at-large seat to decision item, and the others only had one applicant, is that correct?
At this time.
At this time. So gentlemen, just be aware, if other applicants come in between now and our regular meeting, we would consider those as a decision item, take them off here, and we would, they are already as a decision item, but we would entertain that one by one as nominations and vote for a person for that particular seat.
Okay, just for clarification, you want the ones that have just one application still on this item, or you want a separate item?
We can leave them here and just handle them as necessary. Anything? Other questions, comments? All right. Item number 2, appointments and reappointments to the Library Board of Trustees.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have 2 seats, if I can get to that. Seat 4 is an at-large currently occupied by Mark Patrick, and seat number 1 is for a City of Morganton resident, and that is occupied by Browning Rochford. We do have another application in addition to Mr. Hoffman's, and that is from Janice Gravely. So you have 3 applications at this time for seat number 4 and 1 for seat number 1.
Right. Same would apply here, gentlemen. If we get multiple applicants, we'll consider them as nominations and vote per person. Okay? All right. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Item number 3. Clerk appointments or reappointments to the Tourism Development Authority. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For seats 4, 6, and 8, 4 and 8 are for collectors of occupancy taxes for hotels or motels, and I suppose VBROs or Airbnbs. Seat number 4 is occupied by Samantha Reed. She is seeking reappointment. Seat number 8 is occupied by Mitch Curse. He is the general manager down at the Hampton Inn. And seat 6 represents travel and tourism at large, and that is occupied by Diane Ryle. We do have more than one application for 1 or 2 of these seats, so that's why it's a decision item. And there's also an item to appoint Commissioner Phil Smith as the chair of the Tourism Development Authority for 2025, since he's on your board appointment list for the TDA. And I'm happy to try to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Any questions on this item? All right. Seeing here none, this item will remain on the agenda. This brings us to item 7, reports this evening. Partners Health Management update for the period ending September 30, 2024. This will be presented by Dr. Paul Holden with Partners Health. Afternoon, Paul.
Hello, Mr. Chair, board members, Mr. Epley. Thanks so much for allowing me to come for a few minutes today. Welcome to the new board members. I'm sure Burke County appreciates 2 of you here today. I'm the regional director for Partners. We have, each of us serves 3 counties, and so I serve Burke, Rutherford, and Catawba. I just thought I'd give a minute and a half about managed care organizations, because it gets confusing, and I know that sometimes we don't explain it that well, but I would just say this, that the state of North Carolina has 4 managed care organizations that deal with behavioral health and substance use and some other things, but just for purpose of the discussion, we'll just talk about those. And so Partners serves 15 counties from Forsyth to Rutherford. So Burke's almost as far west as we get. The state encourages choice with Medicaid members. I think that some people might think about Medicaid just being one big giant pot of money, and it's all the same. But the state encourages different choices that people can make who are eligible for Medicaid. So I'll just tell you quickly, those 4 different choices are: 1, you can choose to be part of a standard plan. So there's 4 health insurance companies that have what's called a standard plan. And you can be part of that. It's like the insurances that we have, and you can pick a provider, and then the insurance company gets reimbursed from their provider that's on their listing. The second kind is called a Medicaid Direct, which is you don't choose any plan, but you go and you find a provider that accepts Medicaid. And then Partners has a contract usually with those providers, and so the invoices come back to Partners, and then we pay the providers for that, whatever service that was. More specifically, since July 1st, Partners is involved, and the other 3 managed care organizations, in what's called a tailored plan. The tailored plan is for folks who have a little bit more severe challenges in their lives. The majority of those folks who have intellectual developmental disabilities, but also for traumatic brain injury, mental health, or substance use. And so we work with that population who they are selected because they meet criteria for the program. And Partners doesn't provide direct services, but we do have care managers. And so what we do is we work with those folks in all the different elements that they need: physical health, pharmacy, behavioral health, and anything else that they need to provide for their health and well-being. And then we also work with state funds. There are state allocations for behavioral health. So those are 4 different kind of elements. So it's just not one big pot, but a couple different things. So what I'm going to report to you today just really is very high level, just kind of, I'll make just a few points. I'm not going to go through every data point, but just kind of give you a sense. You can go to the next one. So this slide just shows you how many folks for the first 3 months of that quarter that we worked with, 4,207. And the penetration rate, what that means is, of those people who are eligible for Medicaid, how many had been provided services during those 3 months. So a 48% is pretty high. It's a good rate, that folks are actually seeking out services, and we're able to, providers in Burke are able to provide that. 631 were served, which with state funds with allocation for either behavioral health or substance use issues. You can go to the next one. This gets a little small even for me. That's why I brought my glasses up. I guess the thing that I would just want to point in the direction is that when you look at intellectual developmental disabilities, it's almost a 4-to-1 ratio for adults versus kids. And most of that has to do with folks who have had an intellectual deficit most of their lives, and then as they move into adulthood, services get a little bit more expensive because they might be in a facility, they might have a day treatment program, whatever it is. That's why there's more at that particular level. Mental health, still higher for adults, which is a better sign for us that 1781 mental health adults in Burke County sought mental health services through Medicaid during July 1st to September 30th. And then the substance use numbers are there. You can go to the next one. The only thing I really want you to know about this is because we talk about intellectual developmental disabilities, mental health, and substance use, a lion's share of the money goes to intellectual developmental disabilities. It's $28 million plus, because it's a very expensive thing to provide facilities and places for folks that have intellectual deficits to make it through the day, make it through the week, make it through the month, or to be living in a specific facility. So that's the reason why that's so high. I think the substance use number is pretty low for just that quarter. I mean, it's an average number, but it's low in that people seek other ways to seek help other than going through Medicaid providers. Either they try it on their own, they go through 12-step programs, or they go through nonprofits that aren't charging them. So there's a host of ways that you can get in recovery for substance use, but this is the one that we work with. So we can move to the next one. This is kind of an important slide. I'm sorry I didn't do this correctly because I want to make sure you really understand this. In the state of North Carolina, and actually in any state in the country, Medicaid, you are not eligible for Medicaid when you're in jail. So when you're in a local county jail, Burke County Detention Center here, you're not eligible for Medicaid. So the county commission, through their funding in years past, they've been gracious enough and have seen the need, has funded different programs to kind of help our folks that are in the jail. The one thing I do want to say, before I forget, since the sheriff is here, Sheriff Hintzman is fantastic to work with. He's open to wanting to help people, and so we really appreciate his help. And Captain Huffman, who's the jail captain, also, they're wide open and willing to do something. I want to tell you about a program in just a minute that we're just getting started, but just wanted to acknowledge the sheriff and what he's done. So 2 of the elements that work in the Burke County Jail, one is correctional behavioral health, which is an online service. So 2 days a week, inmates brought to a place where they can speak to a counselor or therapist online for mental health issues. And so if you're referred by one of the jail staff, the nursing staff, then that's something that we can go and kind of work on your mental health issues. Catawba Valley Healthcare actually has in-person folks. They have 2 people that are there that can help, actually 3, that can help with substance use issues. And so the idea is that we try to cover mental health and substance use with a pretty efficient use of money there. You can see the budget expenditures on the far right for both of them, and then I just put the total amount that we've expended so far, just to show you that we're spending the money, or they're spending the money. Providers are providing the services. One thing about that I just want you to know is that Partners also has received a state allocation this year to develop a reentry team. And so we've been working with Captain Huffman and the sheriff, and we just had a meeting last week to confirm this. So we're going to get started with when folks leave the jail, Catawba Valley Healthcare works with those folks that have substance use issues, and our reentry team will work with those with mental health issues. The idea is that once you step out of jail, we want to make sure that if you need further provision of services, that we can help you get there, and that we don't want you coming back to the jail because we'd like you to be a productive citizen of Burke County and be happy and healthy. And so we just got started with that reentry program. And again, that's something that Sheriff Hintzman has been great about accepting. And so Partners has a state allocation for that. The bottom 2 programs are not about the jail, but they're just about other things that the county commission has funded. The Morris program has to do with people that go through crisis, rather than just then meeting the crisis and leaving them alone. What happens is Catawba Valley Healthcare works with those folks. It's more under the age of 21 than it is over the age of 21. They work with them and stick with them for 6 to 8 weeks so we can make sure that once the crisis is passed, that they're going to get to a point where they can move on and life's going to be okay, or at least better for them. So the Morse program has been a great program to have. And then the final one is psychiatric support. That's where Catawba Valley Healthcare, with Burke County residents, makes referrals for therapy and different kinds of provision of psychiatric support. So the next one. So I'll go quickly and just say, at the jail, the online mental health, they worked with 81. The thing I want to bring to your attention is inmates under suicide watch, 38. We're talking about 3 months here, July 1st through September 30th. So of all the people that are through there, 38 separate people were under suicide watch. And so I just want to kind of stress to you how critical it is at the jail to kind of be working with the folks that are there. I mean, the folks that work for the sheriff's office have enough to do to just keep order and move people through and get them fed and do what they need to do. But to have people there that are also having suicidal ideation, it's been a great thing, and appreciate what the county commission has done to fund that to this point in time. And then Catawba Healthcare, in their top line, they've served 100 inmates so far who have said, yes, I have a substance use issue, and I'd love to have your help. And so they worked with them. And the number of counters means the number of times that they've met with those 100 people. And then I put the numbers there for the Morris, which I just talked to. So there have been 16 people that have gone through a crisis through that 3-month period of time that Catawba Healthcare is working with. And then psychiatric support is, they've worked with 271 Burke residents and in 376 ways. So you might go to the therapist here, you might have a psychiatric appointment there. So it's kind of a broader than just, when it says psychiatric support, it means a broader thing of therapy and working with providers. Okay, questions. So I talked about the reentry team. The one other thing I just wanted to mention to you was that, well, we've just had Hurricane Helene in September, the end of September. And so in working with the health department, with Ashley Jarrett, and with EMS here, James Robinson, and the school district, Dylan Sane as the student services director, and Catawba Valley Healthcare, we kind of wanted to make sure that Burke County residents were okay, at least in terms of the behavioral health part of it. I think that the thing that we've really found over the last, is it 2 months? Is that Burke County residents are very resilient, and they have worked very hard to kind of start to piece back their lives together. So I did just want you to know that. So, but what we decided to do at the time for the last several weeks is to do what's called a co-responder program that Partners has funded. And that's where we put 2 people, one at Station 1 and one at Station 7, and they were to, the idea was for them to go out with the EMS folks and to really see what's going on in Burke County. Just waiting in an office somewhere, sometimes we don't get a good feel for what's actually going on in the county. So we've been doing that for the last several weeks. We're coming up on a meeting, I think at the end of this week, to kind of see whether we're going to continue with it or not. It's likely that we won't, because like I said, the folks here have been very resilient and have done a good job just kind of piecing their lives back together and doing the best they can. But the rest of the services that we normally provide, I think, are still there, and hopefully people can access them if they need them. So that is my report. Do you have any questions for me?
Where's Partner? Where are you guys located out of? Are y'all in Hickory?
Well, we have several offices. Our main office is in Gastonia.
Okay.
My office is at First Plaza in Hickory. We also have a satellite office here, a block over on Union.
Now, where do they go when they get this counseling? Is it something set up? I'm sorry.
Well, that's for all the different providers that are in this community. I provided, Mr. Carswell had asked for that list last year. I think I came up with 33 different behavioral health providers that are in all of Burke County, and people have choice to go to any one of those providers that they'd like to see.
Okay.
One thing I will tell you, so just for your information, Catawba Valley Healthcare that we work a lot with, they just opened up a satellite office in Valdez. Well, it's going to open on December 7th. No, is that right? Yeah, I think, well, that's Saturday, but anyway, this soon for folks for substance use and mental health issues.
Thank you.
Okay, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul. No objection. This item will remain on the reports agenda. Item number 2, operational update from Senior Services and Veteran Services. This will be presented by Roxanne Powell. Afternoon, Roxanne.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. On behalf of Senior Services, we'd like to return and give you an operational update of the activities and programs going on at our 2 senior centers here in Burke County. We'd also give you an update on our nutrition services, Meals on Wheels program. And returning with me will be Molly Eller, our Veteran Services Officer, also sharing with you some updates on her programming. And we'll also have slides. Okay. Thank you.
Presented by Corey Fisher-Wellman. Afternoon, Corey.
Good afternoon. Caleb, if you just go to the PowerPoint. So included in your packet is a director's report to give you some information about the agency. I'm going to walk you through a little bit of a presentation about kind of just some highlights of what's going on throughout the agency. Next slide. We'll touch on some personnel updates, some operational updates, capital updates, and then a couple of emerging issues as well. You can go on to the next one. So here's just a graph that shows, just especially for the newer. We have 199 full-time employees. We have a number of part-time folks in addition to that, but 199 full-time employees. And this graph just kind of shows you the growth we've experienced over the last 5 years. I believe the last positions were added as a result of Medicaid expansion. Go to the next slide. This is an update of our current open positions. Sometimes turnover can be cyclical at DSS. You go through periods where we have some turnover, and then periods where things are running pretty smoothly. We have about 20 open positions. 4 of those have either a conditional or a final offer, and then we're still working to recruit and hire for the remaining positions. If you look on the right side there, you'll see over the last 30 days we've had 7 separations. All of those were voluntary separations, and we've also hired in 5 positions, and those are outlined there below. You can go on to the next slide. This slide indicates each year the county has to enter into an MOU between the county, DHHS, that outlines several different metrics that the county will be judged on or measured against. This particular slide shows our progress towards our economic service MOU data. We do a great job in economic services of being timely and making sure people receive their benefits and their services timely, and we consistently meet those MOU measures, and this is just demonstrating the meeting of those measures over the last 30 days. Next slide. Then just a little bit of information about child welfare. So child welfare encompasses child protective services, foster care, and adoptions. And in the last month, so we become involved in a family's life through CPS reports. So in the last 30 days, we had 123 total reports. 32 of those reports were screened out because they didn't meet the definition of abuse, neglect, or dependence. 81 were screened in, and then 10 were screened and sent to screened for other counties. We currently have 295 open CPS cases. Then the top number is our numbers for foster care. So we have currently 184 children experiencing foster care in Burke County, and I'll talk about that graph here in a second. But in the month of October, we had 4 children who entered care, and then 9 who exited care. 2 exited through adoption, and 9 exited through guardianship. And then if you look at the graph there, it's a little hard to tell, but the graph depicts the number of children experiencing care over the last 5 years. Since 2020, we've had about a 28% decrease in the number of children experiencing foster care. I think that's attributed to a lot of things. I think, we really work hard to focus on controlling the things we can control. So I think some of the things that we've been able to do to affect the kids in care is, starting at the very beginning, making sure that we consistently screen reports, that we work hard in CPS investigations and in-home cases to alleviate the need for kids to enter care. And then once kids enter care, trying to be mindful of really working hard to focus on permanence. And one of the things we've done that I think we had a number of kids when I first got here about 5 years ago who had been in care for extended periods of time, and we've worked hard to focus on those teenagers and older children who've experienced foster care for years and years and years, and really trying to be focused on being creative and thinking outside the box and trying to find permanent solutions for those kids. And I think we've been very successful in helping some of those children achieve permanence, and I think some of those things have contributed to the decrease of number of kids in care during that time period. Next slide. Just a little bit of a capital update. Obviously, the county's still working through options for a long-term solution for our building, but I wanted to give a little bit of an update about some work General Services has done for us in the last several months. As most of you know, and the two newer commissioners may not know, that we oftentimes have children who spend the night in our office who are experiencing foster care and don't have a placement for a variety of reasons. That's traumatic enough that you have to come and sleep in a building, but up until recently, we didn't have a shower facility in our building, so when those kids were sleeping in our office, we'd have to use either a gym or the YMCA or somewhere where that could just be difficult. The children already are going through a lot, and then having to go somewhere to try to find it to take a shower, and that's, first off, it's not normal to sleep in a building, then it's not normal to have to go, try to find a place to take a shower. So we had an existing bathroom that had a lot of space that they were able to build a handicap accessible shower and also a washer and dryer, which would allow us to wash children's clothes while they're there too. So that's incredibly valuable to us and makes what is a terribly traumatic situation maybe a little bit less traumatic for the kids that are staying with us.
Is that our only choice, for the kids to stay at your office? I mean, got nothing else we can do better than that here in Burke County?
Well,
I mean, I'm not saying that
sure,
in a bad way,
sure.
I'm just saying this seems
I mean,
ridiculous to
we
me.
are at the mercy of someone who's willing to say yes. So we certainly have a staff who works really hard to make sure that we have placement for all children. Typically, children who are in our office are kids with higher behavioral needs who need a higher level of care, and those can sometimes be difficult to find. And so there oftentimes is a period of time in between placements where kids don't have anywhere to go. I mean, we're constantly working around the clock to find a placement while they're there, but there are.
Are a lot of these kids mentally challenged, or are they able to function and work alongside with people? I know I'm kind of new at this.
Sure. I mean, most of the kids who end up staying in our office have pretty significant behavioral health needs, so which can make them challenging in finding placement, and that's oftentimes why they end up at our office. There is a shortage of level behavioral health placements, and I think there's a nationwide shortage of foster placements. I mean, across North Carolina, there's 23 kids a night on average who sleep in a DSS office. So that's every night, a quarter of the DSSs across the state have a kid sleeping in their office. So,
And what's the oldest ones? How old are these kids mostly?
I mean, children in foster care can be in foster care up until the age of 18. We do have extended foster care.
You got
but
some
that's-
old ones in there that, I mean, are they capable of working kind of thing?
I mean, it is for sure. Lots of our kids in care do work. It can be difficult when, I mean, we don't want our office to be a placement option, so we wouldn't want to get someone set up with a job while they're staying at our office when
Sure.
tomorrow they could be placed in Pitt County. So,
I got you.
but
Okay, I'll shut up.
no, I welcome the questions. Yeah, I mean, it is challenging. It's challenging to our staff, and it's also challenging, to those kids who haven't experienced that. But certainly having the bathroom is a needed addition.
Well, I could have waited till the end,
You're
but,
fine.
Corey, I'm just curious, on a monthly basis, how many times does this happen where we have kids sleeping in our building? If you just had to guess, a rough
We had a
guess.
number on the year. Any idea? It's 240 days from the start of from January 1st to today. About 240 days this year we've had a child spend the night. So more often than not, there's some of that is the result that we've had some kids who have stayed there for weeks at a time, but it happens a good bit for sure.
Thank you.
And it's just there's a couple of emerging issues. One of them is that, there's an ongoing need for placement. I think we try to work really hard and control what we can control. We're working hard to identify and license foster families in Burke County, but, we're at the mercy of outside providers who provide higher levels of care to say yes. So that continues to be a challenge. That's something we continue to work through, and, that's a challenge across the state. And also, I just think that there continues to be workforce challenges at DSS, not just in Burke County, but across the state. There's less and less people who are entering this field, and I think lots of times, if you look at the number of people who have, the separations, we have a lot of people who are leaving DSS not because they're going to work in another county, but just because they're leaving this work altogether. So I think that continues to be a challenge in trying to be creative in how we create a workforce moving forward. And then lastly, I just wanted to give you a little bit of an update about our Christmas Wishes program. So each year we try to solicit donations for all of our children experiencing foster care. So this year we're trying to get donations for 205. I know the 205 is a little bit different than the number of kids I told you are in foster care, but there's a number of kids who are potentially will enter foster care, and that's kind of where the discrepancy comes from in the numbers. But we're trying to solicit gifts for 205 people. At the moment, we have 148 sponsors, some doing one tag, some doing up to 15. So I think we're in a good spot for having all the gifts accounted for. So I think it's a pretty cool thing to see every year, that the community coming together to make sure the needs of, it's a traumatic event to be experiencing foster care. So try to, a little bit of normalcy goes a long way. So it's cool to see all the gifts throughout the office and our staff collecting those, and they'll start taking them out, I believe, next week. We're also thankful to a local church who's been willing to donate space, because you can see this is in their gymnasium where the gifts are just laid out across the floor. But we did the first year, maybe 2 years, we did this in our office, and that was not very effective because there was just gifts lining every section of the hallway. So it's nice to have an outside space to do it. And then any other questions?
Thank you, Corey. Any questions for Corey? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Corey.
Item number 8, other items for discussion, courtesy announcements. Of course, we got lots of debris pickup. Mr. Manager, could you give us maybe an update on debris pickup from the storm?
Yes, sir. So we're seeing more contractors mobilize every week. We still got a long way to go. Again, as a reminder, we estimated about 400,000 cubic yards of residential. We were the first county in the region to get commercial approved, which, speculatively, we think that adds another 250,000 cubic yards. I will, as part of your Friday update this week, I'll email you all some drone photos of, we currently have 2 approved FEMA sites for staging material at the landfill, as well as alternative sites at the fairground. And we're working on multiple other ones. One other one in Salem that just began being utilized. So we're approaching somewhere around, a little less than overall, 75,000, 80,000 cubic yards of total material. That number grows every day. So our contractors took, I think, Thursday and Friday off last week for the holidays, but generally they're working hard. The next conversation is pivoting to waterways. We know that there are a ton of, if you can ride up and down 18 South, there's former bridge coverings and so forth, from driveways that are just in the river. We've met with our soil and water conservation folks, and there's some areas of concern in Linville and Johns River. So that is part of the conversation. Alternatively, a bit of positive news is debris collection in private property. So behind gated communities and homeowners associations historically has not been a public assistance area of support through FEMA's reimbursement process, but for this storm, they've changed that. So that'll streamline that process a lot more and allow us to get in some of our private property communities. So in summary, sir, I think we're making progress. I'm pleased with where we are, but we still have a long way to go. We are also the first county to be approved, and DEQ is coming to town tomorrow. We have been issued an air quality permit for air curtain burning, which is basically incinerating this material. So, it's again a pretty complicated permitting process, but we're the first ones, and they're going to come and use us as a best practice example, because staging this amount of material really is a significant challenge. And then trying to reduce it being chipping, trying to chip the material is a hard, it's very expensive. It's time consuming, and you still have the chips to deal with. So if you've never seen an air curtain burner, I'd encourage you to look one up. It's essentially a stove that is mobile, that forces air and burns this stuff pretty quick. So we're the first, as far as I know, the first county that's been permitted for that reduction model, and we're going to show DEQ tomorrow and hopefully get started as quickly as we can.
So tell me what that means, Brian. I've had a few folks ask about, well, what's all this stuff piled up over at the fairgrounds? So is it the intent for it to be completely done away with at that location?
So it's being staged there. It's called an alternative debris site. And the only goal of those is to reduce the dead weight traffic from collection to, each site has to be permitted through DEQ and through FEMA. It also has to have a way of measuring the amount of material. So, you know, we trying to prevent picking something up the lake and having to take it all the way back to the landfill. Just the amount of road mileage and how inefficient that is. So, you know, ultimately, you know, it'll all be reduced. I don't know if we're going to permit to do curtain burning at the fairgrounds, or if we're, you know, just centrally collecting it there, measuring it, and we'll reduce it somewhere else. Right now, the chipper is at the landfill, and I believe we would start burning at the landfill. But the quicker we can get it out of the right of way and quicker we can get it kind of centrally staged, we feel like that's going to expedite the process. We may have to handle some of it twice, though.
So the idea would be to take it to the staging site, chip it, burn it,
Reduce it somehow. It could be burning, could be chipping.
and then whatever's left would go to the landfill.
Yes, sir. The burning is certainly I think the quicker option, and with, you know, lower residual material when you're done. I mean, yeah, we have a pile of chipped material at the landfill that's enormous already, enormous. And that's slow, and it costs a lot. So it's just a lot.
So
$700,000.
this will help burn it on site. Mobily, is that what you're saying?
You can either have what would be similar to a 40-yard roll-off container that's double walled fire insulation, and it pushes air through it, and it's almost like an incinerator, and you load with a track hoe into it. That's one way. Or the alternative way is to dig a hole that's roughly 15 feet long, 9 foot deep, and you put this forced air, you know, up to the lip, and it forces it underneath, and you light it, and it's just a, you know, like a fan that just rolls it. It burns it fast, very hot, and that's the best option because permitting for that is challenging. That's what we've been working on. We just got that last week.
Mr. Chairman, I've had a few people call me from the fairground worried about air quality. If we burn there, will we be doing testing as we burn?
Yeah, any site that you get permitted to stage the material requires core sampling before you do it, after you do it. If you're going to do curtain burning, air quality sampling would have to be done permitting wise there too. And that isn't planned at this point. So, you know, for now, we're starting at the landfill, and the alternative sites are largely just to reduce our road traffic and to make getting it out of the right of way and out of in front of their house much quicker. That's the primary goals at this point.
All right, thank you for that update.
Yes, sir.
I remind you, we have a beautification tab on the county's website. If you see trash and that kind of stuff around in your community or neighborhood, and we need to try to address it with our folks, if you'll go there and give us some information, we'll be happy to work with that. Some upcoming events: December the 10th, Morganton Christmas Parade. We'll be assembling at 5 p.m. Remember, that's a week later than we've seen in the past. That'll be Tuesday, December the 10th. If you can participate with the commission at the Morganton Parade, assembling at 5 p.m. County offices will be closed for Christmas on December 24th, 25th, and on New Year's Day, January 1st. Item number 9 is action item for today. Board of Commissioners consideration of a resolution amending the commissioner's schedule. We've discussed that earlier, moving back to the Monday, third Monday in December. Would entertain a motion to approve resolution 2024-30.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve resolution 2024-30.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. That's 5-0. All right. Well, this brings us to the item we've all been eagerly awaiting, adjournment. All those in favor of adjournment signify by the uplifted. All right, take a motion first.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Thank you, sir. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. 5-0, Madam Clerk. We are adjourned. Thank you for your attendance today. Thank you for being part of our meeting.
Just pray for him. He fell at this business. He's in the hospital down at Baptist, so just keep Wayne Abley in your thoughts.
Thank you, sir. I failed to write that down. I meant to mention that earlier. Thank you for reminding us.